Ideal Protein is a doctor-designed, coach-led ketogenic weight loss protocol that uses food as medicine to empower you to lose weight and live your healthiest life.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, and this is our second episode of From the Cheap Seats. As most of you will remember, if you don't, we have split apart. We're interviewing the gentleman across from me. I'll let him introduce himself in just a second by himself, and then we also bring in David Gray for his own personalized interview. So it's not a group setting anymore. We don't call it group therapy. David and I are around Livingston, and Rob and I are from the cheap seat. So, sir, if you'll take a second to introduce yourself.
Hey, this is Rob DeArmond. I'm the sports editor with the Livingston Parish News.
And we are at this will be probably about the final slow week of the year, huh? Football is going to be starting off next week, things of that nature.
It's this is kind of how we kind of gauge it. Southeastern had their coaches caravan at Greystone on Monday, and that's normally when you kind of realize that things are starting to pick up. We'll have stories on that probably next week in next week's print edition. But that's kind of how you know it's starting to pick up. Football's right around the corner. Volleyball, our fall sports. It seems like we just school just ended, but it seems to always go a little bit faster every summer.
Sure, it seems to turn around real quick. So, a couple of things to talk about. What really is, we're kind of a little slow at the moment, but they kind of intertwine. First and foremost, former Denham Springs standout Cade Doty, who had a great season this year with LSU and made some waves in the postseason, was drafted. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Major League Draft this year they put it with the All-Star break. So you've got the draft and the All-Star break. It's kind of pushed back a little bit. Cade Doty was taken in the second round of the draft. Pick number 78 overall by the Toronto Blue Jays. And if they did the first two nights of the draft on Sunday, and I want to say it was around 11:30 p.m. I even got my wife. We were putting together furniture, and even got my wife into the draft, and she was kind of not really hanging on every pick, but we were doing it and listening to each pick. But Cade it was late, so if you were going to bed, trying to get up Monday morning for work, you might have missed it. But we were right on it. And LSU put out a release almost immediately. I think they had them ready to go whenever they were ready to get drafted. And it's a big opportunity, obviously, for Cade here to go play some pro ball, which is when you're growing up and you're a little kid, that's one of the things you want to do.
Sure. And going up there, if you're an Astros friend, with Mr. Springer. So
yes,
up there in Canada. So tough start to the season for those guys because it's still cold up there. Yeah. It's still cold in a lot of places around the country, but especially up there.
Yeah,
it's still cold.
For sure.
Staying with Cade and two other gentlemen, three hometown sort of heroes, had the first year, I believe, of a camp Correct. That they were trying to host called the Denham Strong Camp. It's a baseball camp. Give us a little background on that, how to come together, and there's an interesting sort of background story to that as well.
It's one of those deals where it's Brock Batty, former Denham Springs standout Brock Batty, former Live Oak standout Preston Faulkner, both of those guys in their collegiate careers at Southeastern, and Cade Doty. They've all been friends for a really long time, and Brock Batty just kind of came to him and said, "Hey, man, it'd be really cool if we could kind of put together a camp for the kids." They called it Denham Strong. When I talked to both Brock and Preston, it was like, man, it was kind of a no-brainer. It was just like it didn't take. I think Preston told me it took about 2 days for them to kind of put together what they wanted to do and kind of decide what they want to do. And when I talked to Brock, he just said, when they were able to do it, he said that the kids were some of the most well-behaved and disciplined kids that he's dealt with in doing camps. And his whole goal, he said, was to have it organized so there was no wasted time. They were always doing something, some kind of activities with the campers, and I think that they were able to do that. He said they like to try to do another one maybe in December if possible. For them, but it was you talk to both of them, and Preston was kind of like, look, we know these kids may see us, on TV or on the computers or whatever playing college ball, and we just wanted to give them the opportunity to interact with us and us to interact with them. And like Brock said, he said, when I was growing up, we didn't have access to that, so that was an opportunity we wanted to kind of give the kids, and it seemed like it turned out well for them, and hopefully they can keep this thing going.
Sure. And, what's interesting is you and I sort of discussed it, but the three of them, or at least two of them, talked to you about it. It seems like they're all staying in the general orbit of baseball, but from very different perspectives.
Right. And this was it was an underlying thing when you do the interviews, and I really didn't focus the story on that, but it was just kind of one of those deals. You got to Cade here, who's just drafted in the second round by the Blue Jays. And you've got Preston Faulkner, who had an unbelievable season last season this past season for Southeastern, winds up being the tournament MVP for the Southland Conference tournament. Kind of got you don't want to say snubbed for the MVP, the outright MVP, but when I talked to him, he said I'd be lying if I didn't go in there with trying to show him who the guy was, and he kind of proved it in that tournament, but. He's if a career in pro baseball, obviously he said if he gets the opportunity, he'll take it. But if it doesn't work out, he'd like to go into coaching, so that way you stay involved with the game. And then with Brock Batty, he started his career at Louisiana Lafayette, then transferred into Southeastern. Didn't really throw a lot at Southeastern. He said it was kind of an adjustment. You're still, they needed a leader kind of from the dugout, and that's kind of the role he stayed in. But it's one of those things where he said, I wouldn't trade anything for the world. You got an opportunity to do it, and right now I think he said he's waiting on some interviews and things like for jobs, I guess, real quote unquote jobs. And then he said, but he's not ruling out maybe coaching in the future, because he said he'd always like to stay connected to the game. So that's we'll follow that, and we'll see what happens with those guys.
Sure. And so that kind of took up a lot of your time. We are going to be during the week. We're going to be discussing, I guess, our final all parish team next week.
That's what I like to do. Softball. I think it's the last one we have. And you guys please don't think I'm sandbagging on it. It's I'll just be honest. It's summertime, and we have time to get it. I think everybody knows who's on it, but we just haven't talked about it.
Sure, and we'll be discussing that next week among a few other things. So, sir, if you want to, and of course we'll have the lead in for football as well. So if you want to introduce yourself real quick as we wrap up, quick episode today.
Hey, this is Rob DeArmond, sports editor with the Livingston Parish News.
And my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys out there for joining us on this is From the Cheap Seats, named it after your column, where we discuss everything sports going on in Livingston Parish. We'll be sitting down with Mr. David Gray after this to record Around Livingston, where we talk about news and lifestyle. Please remember the news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. One last time, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time.